Hello, Professor Hawkins. My name is Brandon Giancarlo, and I take your CHP 425 class online. And I decided to do my final project on elder abuse, and that's because I actually had a recent elder abuse issue with my grandmother in Maine who died recently. And she was taken advantage of, poor thing, but it's okay. So let's get into what elder abuse is and what types of elder abuse there are. According to the CDC, the elder abuse can be defined as an intentional act or failure to act that causes a risk or harm to an older individual. And the CDC defines an older individual as anyone 60 or older. I thought it would probably be maybe somewhere near 70, 75. Then that would be considered elderly or past 65, but makes sense 60 and older. So, what are the types of abuse that the elders might go through in their lifetime? Well, I decided to do four because I didn't have enough time to do all of them. But the most obvious one is physical abuse, and this has been seen a lot, especially with social media acting as like a sort of eye of justice. This is where an individual is either beat or thrown around, scratched, slapped, maybe having something thrown at them. I recently saw a video where an elderly woman who didn't exactly know what was going on was being berated by her caretaker. The caretaker was throwing things at her, hitting her, and it was just an awful situation because she couldn't do anything and she had no choice but to sit there and take it and try to defend herself. Um, the obvious signs you can look for are bruises, broken bones, missing teeth, missing hair, scratch marks, bite marks, anything of that nature. That's what you can look for signs of physical abuse. Second type would be psychological abuse. Now, all of these kind of play into each other, and um, they can cause psychological issues down the road. But psychological is when the mental health of the patient is not the greatest. And with mental health being such a big issue, seniors they are excluded from needing good mental health. This is where a patient may experience anxiety, depression, social isolation, PTSD, anything of that nature caused by their caretaker or family member just being awful towards them, which is not something you really want to do because no matter, it goes back to that old saying, words do hurt. And in this case, elders, they can, they have no choice but to sit there and take it. Um, and it's very sad to see, depressed elderlies living this wonderful life and then being stuck in a nursing home or stuck in a bed at a caretaker's house and just being depressed and wanting to die. The third one I decided to research was probably the most grotesque and disturbing one that I had to do, and that was sexual abuse. And apparently that's pretty big because think about it, you have a patient that is either has dementia, Alzheimer's, or not all the way there mentally. It's a perfect opportunity for someone to take advantage of them, and it's just sickening. Sickening. Rape in any type of fashion is just horrible. It's just terrible. And elderly people, whether it's through physical or sexual abuse, their body doesn't heal as bad as it did, as it would when it was, when they were younger. Like me, I can probably take a punch to the face, and then next week you won't even know that I was punched in the face. With an elderly person, that might break their jaw. That might cause significant bruising on the face that just won't go away. And With sexual abuse, you can look for the signs where, they have bloodied underwear, soiled underwear, ripped clothing, um, sores and gashes around the anus or vagina. And this ties also into psychological because now they might have some sort of aggression towards people. They might want to stay away from other people for the fear of that they might be sexually assaulted again. Very disturbing. And then sometimes during my research, I found that some individuals, um, the individual victims that are, you know, put in that situation of being a victim of sexual assault, they end up with sort of Stockholm syndrome, and they play a role in the caretaker's sick, twisted sexual fantasy with the elderly person. Very disturbing. Very, very disturbing. Like I said, rape of any kind or sexual assault of any kind is just downright awful. And it's just one of the worst things that you can put somebody through, especially an elderly person. Now, the last one is the one I decided to do because it actually happened to me, well, to my family. It was exploitative. This is where you have an elderly individual that might make a new best friend, and that friend steals from them constantly, just steal, 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 steal. And I was reading an article about a woman with dementia who had three caretakers over several years, and they stole over $300,000 from this woman. And the woman didn't even know what was going on. She had no idea. And it took some doing from the family members to realize, like, hey, where did all her money go? $300,000. They stole money from her bank account. They stole her social security checks. They stole her jewelry and anything valuable that she had in her home. And that puts them in a very vulnerable situation because they can't pay their rent. They can't pay the fees at the nursing home. They can't eat. And they could be evicted because of being treated like this. And luckily, those three caretakers, they were caught, and then they're thrown in jail for a while, and then they were ordered to pay all of that back. Now, my personal example, my grandmother on my dad's side, um, she died alone in Maine, and what had happened was she had a safe next to the bed where she was at, and it had over $20,000 worth of valuables in it. And when she died, it wasn't reported right away. So what the caretaker did, well, the two caretakers, what they did was stole the safe, broke it open, got whatever was inside, ransacked the house, and then reported her dead. Sick, horrible. And they very stupidly they pawned everything. And if you don't know how pawn shops work, they have to take anything and everything that was pawned at the shop, and they have to turn that information over to the police. And my aunt, she was the one who was dealing with this, and she um, gave descriptions of the jewelry, pictures, and everything of that nature. And then it had come up that these thieves pawned a lot of her jewelry, and they didn't think they were going to get caught because, the grandmother had died, but they were caught. Thank goodness. But yeah, that's why I decided to do my project on elder abuse, because they're a very vulnerable population, and it's just very sad that elders have to go through such abuse, especially late in their life. Thank you, Professor Hawkins. This class was very cool. I enjoyed it very much, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Bye bye.